Today, we'll be taking a look at this GE electric dryer. We will show you how to remove and replace your motor. Be sure to visit ApplianceVideo.com, where you will find thousands of repair videos on the latest technology. And for a limited time, you can save big on an annual membership and take advantage of all of our premium benefits. ApplianceVideo.com. Do it right the first time. To begin your repair, you must first remove the console. Stop. Always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for the proper voltage. You will need the following tools to complete this repair. To begin, you must first remove the top of the console, but if you look around, you'll see there is no screws to remove the top of the console. So it can be rather tricky. What you need to do is pull out on your knob and set it aside. There is one long Phillips screw to the left of the console centerpiece here. Just take this out. Next, you need to be very careful. I apologize if this moves. What needs to happen is we need to pull up on the console on both sides. It's held on by these kind of compression and slotted spots. So you can start on one side. This side always lifts up a little bit easier. This side over here is a little bit more difficult to get up. There we go. Lift up. We will bend it down, and the next thing we'll want to do is take off all of the wiring for your control board. We'll come back to this one. We'll sit it down for a second. This one's being a little difficult to pull off, so I'm going to go to the bottom. Use the board with just a little bit of leverage to start to pop up the terminals, but do so gently so that you do not damage anything. There we go. Got it taken off there. And set your console to the side. Next, to remove the top, you will have to remove these 3 screws here. All of them can be taken off with the Phillips bit. Set these aside. Lift up on the top, slide out, and remove and set aside. The next thing we will need to do is remove this front console bracket. Now, in order to do that, obviously we will have to push the wiring through. There's a strain reliever here and a strain reliever down here. Just pinch them with your needle nose pliers and start to push it through. One through, 2 through. Let's go ahead and pull out our wiring. Next, there is a couple of screws that will have to be removed. Here, here, here. This one, and these 3. Pay attention to what goes where, such as these metal pieces here and your console anchors. There's also one in the center that will need to be removed too. Take that out. Slide out on the metal bracket and set it aside. Next, we will have to remove the front panel here. Now there's a couple things that are holding it on, such as screws on the top some Molexes, some screws in the middle, and screws on the bottom. What I have found easiest is to start with the bottom and move up. So I'm going to open the dryer door. I'm going to lift up the dryer and slide something underneath it just so I can get the screws. There is 2 white Phillips screws under here that will have to be removed. Take one out. Take the second one out. I'll go ahead and remove this. Next, we will open the door. You have 2 Phillips screws here and here that you will want to remove. After we take these 2 out, let's go ahead and close it up. We have one here and here that will need to be removed, but first, let's go ahead and unclip the 2 Molexes. We will remove this one. Followed by over here. When removing it, make sure you hold up on it so it doesn't fall. Set it aside. Let's go ahead and start to pull off. Next, reach down. There's a water line connection right here. You'll have to put pressure up against it and separate. So I use my thumbs. Separate it. And set your panel aside. Now that we have the panel removed, we can now remove the drum. Now, to start, we'll go ahead and push over the wiring. You have 2 screws down here. They do not have to be removed, but it will make your job easier. So 2 1/4 inch at the top of this metal bracket. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the metal to flex over when we're removing the drum. Now, before we remove the drum, we will have to take off the belt. I'm going to slide one arm under here, one arm through the side. Push my arms in here. I will grab the idler gently and move it back. Pull the belt off the motor shaft. Allow the idler to gently move back. Pull my arms out. Next, I'm going to grab the belt. I'm going to pull forward on the drum. Start to pull it out and set it aside. Now that we have the drum removed, we have clear access to our motor and blower assembly. Now, the main reasons why you'd be replacing a motor would be if it's overheating, is most common one with General Electric on these, is it'll try to start, it'll just hum, it will not turn, and then all of a sudden it'll shut off and you won't be able to try to start it again for a couple of minutes. Or during the middle of the cycle, it may shut off, smell kind of like burning smell, and then will not turn back on until it has time to cool down. Now, no matter which one of these you are replacing, you can probably get the blower wheel out in the front or the motor out from the back, but you're gonna cut your hands up. The best way to get this out is to remove the motor and the blower in one assembly. To do so, we will start by removing your shield for your thermostats. It is held on by 1/4 inch screw. Next, while we have the 1/4 inch on here, let's go ahead and remove this thermostat screw that's holding on to our bracket. Switch over to our Phillips. We will pull these 2 screws out as far as they can go. All right, you do not have to remove them, but we do have to get them off of this motor bracket here. Now, when we're working on the back side, there's a couple of things that will have to happen here. We'll have to remove a screw here and here, both 1/4 inch. There's also one hidden right underneath here that will have to be removed. Once again, 1/4 inch. Next, we'll have to take off the wiring for the motor, the wiring for the belt switch, and remove the idler as we are pulling the bracket out. So I'll do it kind of in a sequence so that you can see it. I'll start by removing the screws, start to pull the assembly out, remove the wiring and such. So let's start with the 1/4 inch on the bottom. Let's go ahead and get the one hidden on the back. Since I'm going to be putting my hands through here, I'm going to put my protective gloves on. Remove your wiring harness from your motor. Start to slide the assembly over to the side and pull off the wiring for your belt switch. So we'll remove these. Next step to pull out on it, we will pull up on the idler and just set it back in the casing and set it aside. Now gently start to pull out on your motor assembly. Eventually the plastic will clear the housing, slide up. Be very careful of your wiring. There's so much metal in here to cut it. Pull up on the whole assembly and set it aside. Now that we have this assembly removed, we have clear access to take off our motor. Now, in order to do so, we will have to remove the blower wheel. What I recommend is grabbing onto this shaft with a pair of pliers that will lock. I do recommend going onto the pulley side. Just right behind is a nice little spot that holds on good. The blower wheel will have an arrow on it on which direction to remove and which direction to tighten. On this one, I'm going to hold on to the pliers. I'm going to pull the blower wheel toward me, loosen it up, set the blower wheel aside. Next, what I will do is remove the motor bracket here. To do so, stick my tack puller underneath it. You're gonna have to push on it and kind of lift it up to slide off your mounting bracket. So we'll set that down. Next, let's go ahead and turn it around, and you will see there are 2 screws that will have to be removed on here. So let's get these 2 screws out. Remember which way your motor was sitting in. The actual plug-in piece will be toward the belt switch. Easy way to remember. We'll go ahead and slide out on the motor, remove it from the bracket. And last but not least, this will have to get transferred over to the new motor. It is held on by 2 1/4 inch screws. So let's remove these. Take these off and set the motor aside. When installing your new motor, first we will have to reverse what we did previously. Starting with the actual motor bracket on the back. Now, if you're paying attention, what will happen is this bracket will go on here, but we need the screw holes to be pointing toward where your kind of plug-in block is here. It needs to be pointing up and down. That way, when we put it in, they will match up here and here. So let's start by putting in the first screw to hold it on. Let's get the second one in there. Now, I've seen a lot of people try to remove these on this bracket while it's sitting in here. That is very difficult, so I highly recommend just taking the motor off the bracket. Now, we'll get it into place, kind of bring it in so it mounts up good on your bracket here. We will turn it. We're gonna have to turn this a little bit, match up where it mounts in on the back, and that should match us up on the front too. 1 screw in. Second screw in. I will move this bracket around a little bit, see how it's sitting. Looks okay. Now for this, what we will have to do is it has 2 sides, the longer side and the spot with the curve. The longer side will go underneath and hook underneath, just like this, okay? And then you will bring the other one to the top, grab onto it, press it hard, that'll lock it in place. Next, we will grab the motor shaft one more time with the pliers, reattach our blower wheel. You'll just put it on there, spin it the opposite direction. Get it nice and tight, boom. Now we can reinstall the assembly. When reinstalling your entire assembly here, first we will bring it into position. Now the first thing I want you to do is just kind of start to drag it in here where you're lining up the blower wheel with the plastic housing. You may have to fight it a little bit, that's normal. Just make sure that you do not damage any of your wiring. This is imperative. Okay, so now we have it in position. Let's get our wiring out here. Start to hook some of it up. We'll do the belt switch. Okay. Let's bring our idler back into position. We'll bring it around, start to kind of drop it in place, and it swings in at an angle. There's almost like a little metal stopper on top, so it can't go too far. Make sure it doesn't go behind it. It just kind of rests on the stopper and goes inside the bracket. We can move it over, drop it in place. You will have to make sure that the metal pieces slide into the slotted areas on the frame to ensure that it can't wiggle around. Let's reinstall the Molex. We're in pretty good. Next, we will reinstall the screws that hold it in. While we still have our 1/4 inch on, let's go ahead and reinstall your thermostat to the bracket. Reinstall the thermostat cover, and this went in. You'll notice you have the screw hole right here, and these pieces slide into slotted areas on the cavity. So go ahead and start to slide it in. You'll lift it up to clear the metal, drop it back down. Reinstall your 1/4 inch screw. Switch back to your Phillips, slide in your mounting screws. Now that we have the motor properly installed, let's go ahead and give it a turn. Now, that's not sounding right. Something's rubbing inside. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if we can't figure it out. Okay, we've removed the motor assembly like we did before. Upon further inspection, I found that there is actually a service bulletin on this unit that this bracket here has to have a space between this portion of the motor and the end of the bracket. It should just be a small gap, so we do have to take the blower wheel off and try to readjust it here. It causes the blower wheel to go at just a little bit of a tilt. So let's go ahead and hook up our vice grips again. Take off the blower wheel. Let's just take this bracket off just to make sure we got it right. Let's loosen the bolts here. Take the first one out, second one. Let's go ahead and take it off the bracket just so we can get a little bit better view here. And as you can see, the bracket is pushed completely up to the motor. So what we'll do, and it is actually a little tilted here. So let's go ahead and just loosen these. Let's see if we can't bring that bracket further. And the reason why you loosen it is because the teeth that are here have to press up against kind of this portion of the motor. So if you loosen it just a little bit, you can pull it up, not have to worry about pulling it too far where it's past the brackets. Get it into the right position. Let's tighten it up. As you can see, I just did it slowly so that I can't draw one way or the other. Just giving it a good push. Looks even. Nice little gap going across here. Push it up. Make sure these are kind of flat. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and put the motor back in. The Molex will be facing toward me. So let's slide in the motor. Just kind of slide it up and line it up with the brackets. It's going to be kind of floppy to start. But what we'll need to do is reinstall the screws on the front just to hold it on a little bit. Now that we have that on there, let's slide the back portion of the motor in. Now, these portions fit flush directly in the center. Make sure your motor clamps are on there properly. Put it directly in the middle. Snap it. Reinstall our blower wheel. We still have that good gap up here. Now we'll install the motor assembly just like we did previously. All right, we have it reinstalled. Let's give it a turn. Smooth. Now we can reinstall the drum. When reinstalling your drum, first grab it by the belt, start to bring it in. You may have to flex the metal to get the drum in. That's why we undid those 2 screws. Use the belt to help hold it up. Move it in place and you'll feel the back bearing push into the slotted area. We will move the belt to approximately where it was at. Reach underneath. Now again, I will first of all locate the belt. I'm going to move the idler arm back, grab it with my fingers here, pull down on the belt. The rib side goes against the motor shaft. We'll slide it in, move the idler arm wheel around it, make sure we're underneath, let it go, push our wiring back over. If you have to move your belt a little bit, go ahead and do so. We will reinstall the screws on the bottom. This one, I'm just going to move the metal back, reinstall. Now we can reinstall the panel. When installing your front panel, first I'm going to put a couple of threads in on the ones on the bottom. It is actually easier to take it off with them removed, but it is easier to reinstall it with them on there. So we'll get them kind of in there just a little bit. Next, we will bring in our front panel and we will line it up on those screws. It has 2 kind of claws that it will slide into. This will just kind of help hold it in place a little bit. Now we will reach down, reconnect our water line, so bring it in. Start to pinch in and push in on your water line, reattach it. We'll bring it in, lift up on the drum to move it in, Reinstall your 2 screws on the top. We will reattach our 2 Molexes while we are up here. Reinstall the 2 screws inside. I'll grab my box, lift up on the dryer, slide this under, tighten the 2 screws underneath. Close it, remove that. Now we can reinstall the console bracket. When reinstalling your bracket, you'll have the open side facing to the front. So let's go ahead and line it up here. I'm just gonna get 2 screws and put them in on the top. I know that these were not holding anything. This is just to kind of hold the bracket in place. Next, we will do these pieces here. These were to cause the plate to be pushed back. So we'll install this one, followed by the other side. The 2 mounting anchors. Those go underneath the piece that we just reinstalled. We will do the center bottom. Center bottom. Followed by the console screw anchor. Let's go ahead and slide our wiring through. Push it through this way. We will push in our strain reliever on the top. Push in our strain reliever on the side. Now we can reinstall the top panel. When reinstalling your top, we'll start to the back. Now on here, there are a couple of slots that will correspond with this spot on the back here. So when we are putting it in, put it in here first, slide it in and drop it down. Make sure it cannot be lifted on the back. Reinstall the screws, and remember that the anchor screws go to the sides. Black screw in the middle. Now we can reinstall the console. When reinstalling your console, first we'll go ahead and put our tech manual down. It does go over to this side. What we'll do is reattach all of our wiring to start. Once all of our wiring is reattached, we will stick our tech manual back in, pop down the paper. This is just to prevent it from touching metal at the top. Now, when you are reinstalling this, one thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to push on it while sliding down, because on the sides it slides in right here, but there's kind of a push tab on each side that you will have to push in and slide down. So let's get this back up here. Make sure our wiring is in. We will push it back, start to slide down. There we go. Check the seams on the sides to make sure it's all the way in. Reinstall your center screw. Go very slow while doing this. Reinstall your knob. Now inside the knob it's a circle and it has one kind of pin that's pushing up. That will correspond to the flat spot inside of here. So look inside, find out where the flat spot is, put the pin there and push in, and this will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality video from ApplianceVideo.com. If you found this video helpful, make sure you click the like and subscribe to our channel.